Congressman David Schweikert, is America dying?
In some ways it is. And it's a really uncomfortable because it's not the way we think. But demographics is destiny. You know, and I have no idea who said that, but so I just stole someone's patent on a saying. But the fact of the matter, the entire industrialized world is in many ways shrinking. What we call fertility rates, the number of children. So the United States is down to about 1.7 children per female. And you need to be at least 2.1 for population stability.
Why are you trying to get involved in these complex problems?
You don't just fall onto this. What happens if you actually do an honest deep dive into U.S. debt? U.S. debt is absolutely out of control. Today we're borrowing about $51,000 a second.
Is that it?
In about 9 years, we're over $90,000 a second. Almost all that growth is Medicare, the additional spending on healthcare. So, when you're running for office, the campaign managers and the consultants all say, say things like this: waste and fraud and getting rid of foreign aid, and maybe Congress shouldn't be paid, which probably shouldn't be. But a number of these things, and then you start to do the math, and you realize it's an absolute fraud. Every dime of foreign aid is about 12 days of borrowing. And what's happened is we're terrified, just absolutely terrified, to tell the public the truth. The reality of it is 9 years from now, if you and I got rid of every dime of defense, every dime of government as you think about it, so no State Department, no FBI, no White House, no Congress, no Supreme Court, it's all gone. You still have to borrow hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And if you backfill Social Security, because remember, the Social Security Trust Fund is also gone in 9 years, it could be a few $100 billion of borrowing. And there's no government. Your government is an insurance company with an army.
Which is a great line. I want to repeat that. An insurance company with an army. How do you work behind the scenes, David, in trying to influence other Congress people, members of Congress, that this is the issue? Time is of the essence. Because if you want to be a star as a politician now, you're going to gravitate more towards
shiny objects. It's one of the things, and I'm having to work on this a little bit because I walk around, forgive my language, pissed off all the time. I think most members of Congress know the demographics, the fact are entitlements. They're earned entitlements. People get upset when you use the word entitlements, but you earned it.
It's literally you're entitled to it.
Yeah, but from today through 30 years from now, every dime of borrowing, 75% of it is Medicare, 75% is Medicare, 25% is Social Security if we backfill it.
What do you mean by backfill it?
Social Security Trust Fund runs out in 9 years.
Okay. So 2032, we're out of money.
So the average Social Security recipients will get a 25% cut in their check. We will double senior poverty, which is absolutely immoral. So you can do a couple things. We could actually work on legislation that's complex to fix, raise the income ceilings, provide a spiff if you want to work longer. There's all sorts of things you can do. There's actually some formulaic problems where a low-income worker who works 40 quarters, someone that's only works half that numbers but is a high-income earner gets more benefits because the formula never really contemplated those sorts of things of a high-income immigrant moving in. So there's things like that we need to fix. But President Biden made it very clear in his State of the Union, we're not allowed to even talk about Social Security. So all the work of the folks who, in the background, were bathing in the actuarial math are now terrified to do it politically. Because now if you say the word Social Security or Medicare, the Democrats are going to run television ads beating the crap out of you.
I looked at, and you told me this a while back. You happen to be in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona District 1, which is one of about 30 remaining competitive districts, meaning could go Republican, could go Democrat.
Yep, it's basically a 50-50 district.
So how does that, the gerrymandering as it's called, make it harder to do your job? Because if the fear of losing an election is now a fear of losing a primary, does that mean the parties kind of drift towards the sides?
Actually, in some ways, I can make the argument that the fact there's so few competitive districts anymore, it should make it actually easier to do much more difficult policy.
I would think.
Because these are bulletproof Republican districts.
Right.
These are bulletproof Democrat districts. They could hold hands, do something that's difficult on save Social Security. Because remember, it's immoral. We're going to double senior poverty in 9 years and do something. And they're in districts that are so overwhelming, they should survive. It's idiots like myself who have a tough district. But I'm also blessed. I have one of the best educated districts in America. So, and it's very entrepreneurial.
Since no politicians other than, say, you and a few others talk about these, how do we get educated enough to go, wow?
Yeah, and what enrages me, so back to being cranky all the time, there's a number of members who will talk about how dangerous the debt is, but they won't look you in the eye and say, and Medicare is the primary driver of the debt, because that really upsets people.
Sure.
But it is the math.
It's just a fact.
It is the math. Now, there are some things we could do to disrupt the crushing debt. And here's where I just get so frustrated, because it's almost like we're institutionalized to the point that here's the math. Do you see certain things? The math should speak to you.
Yeah.
If you dive into the statistics and the math and really, really work it, it should speak to you. And the thing it's screaming at me is it's healthcare. Healthcare cost is the primary driver of U.S. sovereign debt. Now, healthcare costs because we got older, also the lifestyle, particularly young males, but other populations becoming obese, and the health, the crushing health things that happen with that. So what would happen? So we're doing a math set, and I don't have it all done yet, because we need to like triple vet this one, because this one's going to hang me way out. Is these new GLP-1s, these appetite suppressants.
Oh, yeah. So the Ozempic is one of the main
example.
brands.
And there's a couple that, I think there's one that's older, not as effective, but dramatically less expensive. There's a new one that's really expensive, but may be remarkably effective, and maybe only an oral or a single shot a month. But the concept of what would happen if you turn to your Medicare populations, your Medicaid populations, your Indian Health Service populations, your veterans populations, the other populations that government pays for, and say for those who are morbidly obese. And why you come back to this is 5% of the population is over 50% of all healthcare spending. 5% is over half. Now, these are people with multiple chronic conditions. These are people who really suffer.
Yeah.
But if you get down into the tables and look at it, much of this population is morbidly obese. Mm-hmm. And with that, other crushing things happen. The diabetes, the cardiac issues, the other things. And so we're trying to say, what would happen if you could cut obesity in half in the United States over a 10-year period?
Trillions in savings.
Potentially. And we don't think that way. So would you change the farm bill? So you grow different things so that you don't have to process as much. Would you change nutrition support? So instead of giving someone a EBT card, which is sort of the modern day version of food stamps, and say you can go buy onion rings with it. No, instead we're dropping off a box of microwavable healthy food. We're going to work with you to understand your blood glucose, these little things you can put on your skin. There's actually a future Apple Watch. It looks like it's going to have blood glucose monitor in it, to the GLP-1s. And then by the end of the decade, very, very good chance, because it's in phase 1 now, there'll be a stem cell treatment that's sort of universal. They've designed one that doesn't require anti-rejection drugs, so you can do one common line. You could get those people whose bodies don't start producing islet cells again on the production of insulin. You could reactivate their bodies again. What would happen if I could make the argument this is moral? It may be the single most powerful thing you could do for income inequality in the country. Rural poor, urban poor, some of my tribal populations that are just crushed by diabetes. And so you could make the morality argument. These are populations that are just what we eat, how they eat. And it's more than just sticking a needle in someone's arm. You're going to have to do an all-in approach. But by the end of the decade, it could be the single most powerful thing you could do to stabilize U.S. debt to the size of the economy. And with that, one of the things we're trying to model, and this is complex math, is, okay, we already see some math that says it could be the most impactful thing I can do for income inequality in society, but also it would bring in so much more population that could participate in the economy. We also might get a GDP, size of the economy, productivity pop. And so I'm trying to make this argument. There is a unified theory here. The unified theory of debt, it's substantially demographics, the health cost of that demographics, the fact our mortality rates, our fertility rates. Now, what can we do to disrupt that? And what enrages me is we have really good math. The math keeps getting stronger. And I give speech after speech and presentation after presentation, and I almost get people to come lobby against it.
Well, it's there. You're going to take away some of the government taxpayer money they get.
Remember
right?
our rule, money, power, vanity. But you would be shocked. So many people think the battles in Washington are liberals versus conservatives. It's often, no, it just happens to be this spending program goes to conservatives, this spending program goes to liberals. That's why they fight over it. It's about the money.
Yeah.
And some of the greatest examples are when we did telehealth. Telehealth may have been the most lobbied against policy. If it weren't for the pandemic, the expansion of telehealth was never going to happen. What would telehealth look like if I legalized technology? The thing you can blow into that identifies you have a flu virus.
Wait, that's illegal. So healthcare innovation is in some ways illegal.
Because you have the algorithm for it to be disruptive, writing the script.
Is this AI or separate?
That doesn't matter. It's more of an algorithm. Remember, we misuse the word AI.
Yeah, okay.
But because an algorithm say, okay, it's this, you can calculate.
It can have all the data that it needs, right?
And then bangs off your medical records, knows you're not allergic to a certain antiviral, and could order your antiviral. And you could have an avatar on your phone that you're talking to that's run by a chat bot that's the world's leading expert in viruses. We have all that technology today. But government chooses not to reimburse it. Many state licensing says we're not going to let that algorithm write a prescription to you. We're not going to allow a pharmacist to fill that prescription to you because it would disrupt the economics of healthcare. But the wheels are coming off. I mean, seriously, I cannot express to you how hard it is seeing into the future of how we're going to finance what we have today. We're going to have to disrupt it, but that's a good disruption. Totally. The fact of the matter, you could reach into your home medicine cabinet. You have something that costs you $190, so it's expensive.
Like a coffee machine.
But you blow into it, and you have a breath biopsy at home. And for anyone it's going, well, that's sort of crazy. Do you know someone with diabetes? They have a pump on their hip, talking to their phone, analyzing it, the algorithm saying, okay, I need to dose you. That's an algorithm dosing. So it's already existed for a decade in society. But somehow we didn't pay attention. Oh, for diabetics, that made perfect sense. But how about for the mom that has a couple kids at home and trying to get into the pediatrician or the urgent care center or those things? It's just so disruptive. Blow into this, we know you have this, and Lyft is going to drop off the antiviral in 2 hours at your front door. There is this argument that you could crash the price and sort of step up productivity because of the disruption in life.
Which is what we need. So let's get into pro-growth policies, because this is something you specialize in. And I always like to point this stat out because I don't think it comes up very often. To my knowledge, Congressman David Schweikert, there's 5 times the United States has cut taxes. All 5 of those times, revenues to the government actually went up. Tax receipts went up.
Look, you got to be careful. There's certain tax cuts, and this drives the left insane, but you can demonstrate where you got pops in productivity or pops in repatriation or pops in economic activity.
And repatriation is like if I'm Rob Hunter Inc. and I'm based in Paris, France.
Yeah,
the United States tax rate's lower. I'm going to come back and be based in Phoenix.
And there's more than that. We gave you ability to bring your book of business back, and you got to pay a lower rate. But what we really cared about is you also brought your patents back, because many of those patents you have reoccurring revenue on because you sell the use of those patents to lots of other companies. And we could see that is we have far exceeded corporate tax receipts. Than we ever expected when we did the December 2017 tax reform.
Which you were instrumental in helping it run.
One of the most interesting years of my life.
But it's like wake-up time, isn't it?
But how do you go to these folks and say, all right, you guys can hack away budgets, but I can demonstrate you can get rid of everything, and unless you're bending that healthcare cost curve, doesn't matter. You can't cut enough. Right. You just cannot cut enough. Medicare continues to skyrocket. Remember, once again, 100% of the next 30 years of debt, 75% is the shortfall in Medicare, 25% is the shortfall if we backfill Social Security. The rest of the budget, it actually has a small positive balance because we historically have been holding most discretionary flat. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff in government I think we need to get rid of.
Absolutely.
I can come up with a few $100 billion like in 20 minutes, and there's all sorts of agencies. I could actually take much of our regulatory and say I can build you a model where you crowdsource. There's going to be slightly a non sequitur, and if anyone really gets bored, it's a little hard to find. I did a YouTube video like 6 years ago, Schweikert environmental crowdsourcing, and the concept is, okay, so you want to build a motorcycle paint shop because you're that type of guy. You're an artist. And so you got to go get an air quality permit. You got to hire an engineer to check your scrubbers in your paint booths. Every year they got to come in. You're going to do surprise visits. You're going to spend all this money on that. And so after 6 months, you finally get your air quality permit for your motorcycle paint shop. What would happen if you say, you don't have to get a permit, but we're going to, in our community, have several thousand people with the little air quality sensors Bluetooth attached to their phones, driving around. And if you screw up, they're going to catch you almost immediately. And instantly, the folks from the county air quality are going to show up at your door and say, hey, you screwed up. Here's your ticket. Here, shut you down. But it would be a model that says it's living data. It's crowdsourced. Because today's model is I fill out paperwork, I pay a filing fee, I put it in a file cabinet downtown. Does a file cabinet full of paper make air quality cleaner?
No.
So you could file all that and then be screwing up all you want until the inspector's coming and then you hit the button and your filters work. So the idea of a living, and you never catch the guy who's painting cars in his backyard.
Right, exactly.
Without a booth.
Because he doesn't have a permit, never applied.
And so they escape. So there's this concept of if you could crowdsource air quality, well, why can't you do that with financial markets? Why can't you do it with so much of wealth where we have these office towers full of people filing paperwork instead of a living crowdsourced data model that instantly catches bad actors? And that way it would be much easier to start a business, make a transaction, do these things, because the friction is when you cheat, you get caught.
Right.
So instead of the 1938 model, because remember that our regulatory model basically was designed in 1938. I mean, how often do you use like Waze when you're driving in a city and there's lots of traffic and you're looking for alternatives? Because there's all these data points.
Right.
So there's arguments, there's models that say the most powerful thing you could do for urban traffic is actually not more roads, it's better data. The synchronization of the lights. Oh, my
goodness. That drives me crazy.
So the lights know when a school's letting out. They know when there's a ball game. There's when a fire truck has been issued.
What else do we need to meet this?
I'm going to take it a slightly different direction. I want you to picture in your head two circles.
Okay.
These are Schweikert's version of the unified theory.
Got it.
So we're not going to talk about string theory and graviton waves and those things. We're going to do one unified theory is the economics. We need to grow like crazy. Have to fix immigration. Don't have massive importation of poverty. Have importation of skills, and skills could be a skilled carpenter.
Sure.
As well as an electrical engineer. It's what does society need? And that's actually going on around the rest of the industrialized world. We're getting our heinies kicked right now. So you fix immigration. You fix my permitting model. You fix the adoption of technology. You fix the outliers in the tax code. So you want a tax code that maximizes economic growth to maximize receipts. In my first circle, it's all the policies that maximize economic growth and do it in this really efficient way. The second circle is the one that deals with our population issues. We're going to get old as a society. It's just what we are. So how do I create incentives saying, if you want to stay in the labor market, you don't get penalized. So, you're 70 years old and you're happy, you want to keep working, maybe we should give you a spiff, give you back part of your Social Security. You don't have to pay that tax.
Spiff is what?
Right now, Social Security taxes are what, 12.4? How about if you only the business side was paid, the employer side, not the employee side?
The extra 6+%.
Yeah, so you'd stay in the labor force. But because part of that demographic curve is a major disruption in the cost of healthcare through cures. Here's one of the punchlines. One of the models we're working on, it looks like approaching almost 60% of Medicare spend will have some relationship to obesity, diabetes, or Alzheimer's. Some of the solutions are somewhat obvious. They're just politically uncomfortable to talk about. And Congress, in its current intellect, is able to do one little thing here, one little thing here. And my argument is, like on the economic one, you got to do the tax, the immigration, the technology, the bureaucracy, all these things, and do them all at once.
You have to update government. So most of us, I think, people that I talk to, voters, care about the country, feel lost, feel like we're powerless. So is there a way that we can help, Congressman?
Start demanding that your elected officials treat you like an adult.
I would like that. What is the best way to get that message to your congressman or woman so that they would actually go, oh, okay, my constituents do want me to tell them the truth?
Throw out just a straight question is, okay, if diabetes is one of the single biggest cost drivers of government in the United States, what's your solution to disrupt its cost? You can almost do it in a single sentence. Cure the misery, which we're on the cusp of being able to do. Force the political class to see the disruption is the solution.